I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. We're having conversations in executive session regarding litigation and personnel matters, and we went a little long, but we're happy to get started now. And it's a little dim where I'm sitting, but that's okay. But I can maybe see what we're doing. Are we modifying? We're not modifying the agenda at this time?
There's a supplemental personnel report dated today.
Okay.
And just add that to the consent agenda under personnel.
Good. Everybody got that? Should be in your electronic device in a Dropbox, so which I have finally figured out how to work, and it is right here. But we will go ahead and hear from public and staff. And Corinne signed up, I believe.
Yes. Hello. So it's been a while since I've been here. So my name is Corinne Franz, and I am the PTA Council President. We had a meeting today, and I wanted to share with the board a couple things that came out of it. First, that there was an excitement and a celebration with district leadership about the successful early dismissal, which took place on Friday, and which represented a creative use of resources and recognition that different schools have some different needs. And so I just want to let everybody know that there was even clapping at our meeting. So we don't get that much of that. We were very pleased, and I that does not say, I mean, what I want to say about that is we recognize that there's a cultural change taking place. There were things that, you know, some parents thought, well, just because the high school is leaving early, that means everybody. So we don't believe in perfection, but we really felt that the district had done a really excellent job at making a change. The other thing I wanted to add is that individual PTA units really expressed a strong desire to be included and to give constructive feedback to each building on issues of safety, single point of entry, and so forth. And so we just want you to know we would like very much to participate in giving feedback and being part of the solution to these complex issues. And the final thing, I can't believe this. This is the second time today. It's like my mind just goes out. So I'll stop right there. Thank you.
Thanks, Corinne. If it comes to you, just weigh in whenever you want. Corinne is the only one that signed up. Anyone else wish to? Very good. Oh, please do.
Good evening. Tom Parsons. I'm board representative on the TST BOE School Board, and I'm happy to announce to you, if some of you may or may have not heard of this already, that the TST BOCE's board is pleased to announce that we are advancing Dr. Jeffrey Mattison's name to the New York State Commission of Education for consideration and approval for the position of District Superintendent of Schools. After lengthy deliberations and just to highlight, between two searches, we had over 24 applications to consider. And we selected Dr. Mattison, who we found with exceptional credentials, and actually very exciting when we got to meet with him and interview him. And I think the same report came back from our groups that also had a chance to interview him, superintendents included. Very excited on Dr. Mattison's responses, and we're really looking forward to having him come to our district. The process is that we submit Dr. Mattison's name to State Board of Ed. He interviews with the commissioner, and then the commissioner will send a letter back to the board recommending an appointment. And then we'll be working out the timing of when he will arrive. So that's the first good bit of news. Let's see. The last piece, which you may already be aware of, the BOCES has is presenting its budget to the component districts. I believe you may or may not have gotten a copy yet. The simplest thing is to keep it in a nutshell, our overall change is an increase of 1.35% in our budget due to changes on preliminary service requests and expense reductions of a little over $466,000. Itinerants are up by 11%, non-instructional support up by 4.33%, cross contracts 1%, instructional support up 7%, but our capital budget is down $300,000. So I think we've actually will be offering a lot more programs to the schools upon request. So that's one of the reasons why our budget's going up. So that's the summary of my report to you, and any questions you may have.
The last time you reported, you talked about, there was some talk about giving BOCES classes down to the 9th grade level.
Yep, that's at the state level. We're having conversations. I think that's the commissioner's view of where he wants to expand BOCES, reaching down to the 9th grade level.
So the talk is continuing?
Yes.
When do you think?
I think that's probably sooner than later. I don't know the exact time. I know that this is high on the commissioner's agenda about expanding the role of BOCES, and part of that working towards giving students more opportunities to be career ready.
Yeah. Good. Push.
We will.
Anything else for Tom? Go ahead, Jeff.
Tom, I want to thank you for coming down and reporting what's going on at BOCES. It's great to get that perspective. And I'd like to encourage, when the approval's finally given to the new superintendent, to have him come down. And,
It will be
bring
my-
him down, yeah.
It will be my honor to introduce you to him, and I hope you will be as excited about him after you meet with him. I don't want to speak for Dr. Brown, but I think he's excited about having this collaborative relationship with Dr. Madison.
He had quite the I can't remember, but I had his background recited to me. And it's very impressive, and he's quite a bit.
Can we get that in our Dropbox? Get us VTI and his.
The press release I can send you to, which is a very simplified version. I will say one of the most impressive pieces, and this is one from a school board, this is what you want to hear. We spoke with the school board, and I will tell you, they were not a very happy school board. They were losing somebody who was been with their school district for over 4 years and had done some amazing things. They took their program where they had 2 schools on the list, and now he's got all the schools are off the list, and his high school is one of the highest rated in his area. So he's done some fantastic work and done it within fiscal constraints of a tight budget. So
Where is he from?
Cansteo Greenwood, which is down in Steuben County. And he arrived.
In the ACC group.
And he
I didn't hear that.
And he arrived there in a very turbulent time and really made some fantastic goals. In fact, his reputation prior to that was at a high school principal, and his high school had some challenging things before it when he arrived, and I think he left with some very calm, peaceful waters, and things were going very, very well. And the other thing, Dr. Madison has family in this area, so there's something for him to be attracted to, I think.
Thanks, Tom.
Some more chairs? There's people standing in the hallway, then there are some more chairs over there.
Yeah, that's staff and stuff. I mean,
No, there's people.
oh, it's an administrator, but Corinne has remembered what she was going to say. We're still.
And in reflecting on it, I know why it escaped my mind, because it's actually a very complex issue. I'm not really sure what to say or ask for, but it has to do with the calendar, the school calendar. Essentially, there was some talk about that given the lengthy period for Regents Week plus PLC days plus other vacations coming up, that there was some expression that it had been disruptive for families to know, I guess, how to absorb all those days in their schedule. But I think the request that I don't even know how to address this directly is if there was some way that families at some point could be part of the calendar discussion, not for even next year, but down the road. That's right.
Thanks, Corinne, and if I'm not mistaken, the calendar is on the agenda yet again tonight for different reasons.
For the
Yes.
current year, but we do have a couple of committees that are looking at the calendar for next year already.
Oh, okay.
And Mr. Van Kuren pointed this toward the community group.
And Bob is out in the hall and not wishing to, yeah, be as far away from that as possible. But Corinne, you're good? Anyone else wishes to speak? Very good, and according to my agenda, at this time, Chris Bennett and the Community Coalition for Healthy Youth is on the dock. And it's the fall 2012 ICSD Student Survey results, and this is a part of the public comment period, and so we're going to slip that in. And it's nice to see you, Chris.
Hi, it's nice to see you too. Thanks for having me. I brought 10 sets of materials, so it's not going to be enough, but maybe I'll share. So thanks for having me. I'm Chris Bennett. I've met many of you. And I work for the Tompkins County Youth Services Department, and we have an initiative based in our department to support this group called the Community Coalition for Healthy Youth. The coalition is the recipient of a federal drug-free communities grant. It's a 10-year grant. We're in year 9 currently of that 10-year grant. The goal is to reduce youth substance use in the community and to work with the schools in our county on that goal. We've been working with the Ithaca district for the first 5 years of the grant. The next 5 years we've been expanding to the full county. One of the requirements of the grant is that we report to our federal funder every other year on certain core measures, which involves surveying students, not just in the Ithaca district, but in the county. And some of the members of our coalition are there. And I just thought that it would be useful to report back to you some of the information that we learned. Obviously, since it's a drug prevention grant, a lot of the questions have to do with drugs and alcohol, but there are also a fair number of questions about school climate, family, community, and so forth. So I've included some of that in my presentation as well. The Ithaca district had a really good participation rate this past time. We surveyed students in grades 6 through 12. We had close to 2,100 students in the Ithaca district participating in this survey, 83% participation rate. That's the highest it's ever been for this district, so thank you very much. And Candor and South Seneca, so the full BOCES region has participated in this survey as well as the other 5 in this county. So I'll share first with you some of the substance use information. Throughout the survey, when I talk about current use of a substance, that means students who reported using the substance within the 30 days before taking the survey. So a current user is someone who used the substance within the past 30 days. And the data I'm sharing with you are Ithaca district data as well as county data, and I'll show you 2 slides for each so you can see how Ithaca has changed over time and can compare with county and national peers. So you can see that between 2010 and 2012, alcohol use improved for all grades. It went down, which is a good thing. It's not surprising that in the middle school grades, the rates of use are quite low. There's a significant bump up in grade 9, and then it rises through high school. Comparing to the rest of the county and national peers, the red dot are the national peers. That's from something called the Monitoring the Future survey. It's given nationally to 50,000 students, but it's only given in those 3 grades, grades 8, 10, and 12. So I don't have comparison data for the other grades, but it gives us some idea of how students here are faring compared with peers. So 8th grade county peers have lower alcohol use rates than national peers. 10th and 12th grade rates are higher. And Ithaca rates are higher for the high school grades than for the rest of the county. Moving on to marijuana. Marijuana use has actually increased, so trends have gotten worse since 2010. And similar patterns, middle school rates are very low. But there's quite a big bump between 8th and 9th grade. It was about 3% in 8th grade and 20% in 9th grade. And again, these are students who reported having used this substance within the 30 days before taking the survey at the end of October. And looking at how Ithaca District students compare with county and national peers, quite a bit higher than national peers and county peers for those high school grades. Cigarettes, use rates increased for some grades, decreased for others, kind of a mixed bag. But use by the Ithaca District, except for 12th grade, are lower than county peers, and for all the grades, lower than national peers, so that's a good thing. The survey asked about a lot of other drugs. I just decided I'd just give you a quick down and dirty. Smokeless tobacco and prescription drugs are the only ones that showed any significant use. All the other things were very low. There is always the possibility that although there are, I don't know what to call them, lie detectors built into the survey to weed out mischievous responses, some most likely got through when we're talking about a data set of 2,100 students. But we have quite a good deal of confidence with the survey vendor that we contract with to make sure the data that we're sharing is clean. Age of first use for Ithaca and Tompkins, the rates are really quite comparable. Kids in Ithaca who have started drinking, who have ever used alcohol, the age of first use average is age 13, so that again looks like that 8th, 9th grade age. Marijuana, they're waiting almost a full year later for trying marijuana for the first time. Ease of access, this is students who said it would be very easy or somewhat easy to get the substance if they wanted. And I broke out the middle school and the high school. Marijuana, again, it's easier to get marijuana than it is to get alcohol, at least according to what the students report. And Ithaca students report more ease at getting alcohol or marijuana than their county peers do. Again, because I only had 10 minutes, I'm going to jump on to some of the school experiences. Again, I broke out the middle and high school students. So students, 2/3 of the middle schoolers said that they usually enjoy being in school. The rate dropped somewhat for high schoolers. I thought it'd also be interesting to look at students who said they typically hate being in school. About a quarter of high schoolers said that they do. Most students feel safe at school and try to do the best work. Extracurricular involvement. Almost all the students said that there are lots of chances for students to be involved in school-based sports or clubs or activities. About 8 out of 10 participated in either a school or community-sponsored extracurricular activity at some point during the previous year. Sports participation, that's not necessarily school-sponsored sports, it's school or community-sponsored sports. Drops as kids go from middle school to high school. Again, I don't think that's probably a big surprise. It's more competitive and some kids get weeded out as they get a little bit older. Negative behaviors, kids who said that they had been involved in these various negative things during the previous, some of them are past year, some of them are past month. Having skipped school, having been suspended. About 1 in 5 high schoolers reported having been drunk at school at least once in the past year. Rates of bringing handguns to school were less than 1%. I don't think that that's an issue, I hope, at least here in this district. In terms of communication between teachers and students and parents and school and all of that, the students reported that they really do get good feedback from teachers when they're doing something good, but not very many of the high schoolers said that the school communicates that to the home on behalf of the students. Only about 1/3 of the students said that. Students, this was actually a change from last time, that school rules are fairly enforced. This time more high schoolers said that was true. In the past, It was lower at the high school level. And high school includes all the LACS high schoolers as well as the IHS high schoolers, middle schoolers, or all the 6th through 8th graders in the district. Bullying, there are a number of questions about, we don't use the word bullying per se on the survey, but we talk about students who've had people insult them and give verbal negative comments to them, physical bullying, excluding behaviors, and cyberbullying. About a third of the students, both middle and high school, said school staff are available immediately to help. In the past, we didn't ask this question this time, but most students, though, don't report going to an adult when they see bullying. So that was, they may be available, but they don't necessarily go to them. About 4 or 5 questions dealing with student mental health on the survey. I think it's upsetting that roughly a quarter of the students said they felt sad or depressed most days during the past year. And this is pretty much the same as it had been last time, not significantly different. What's next? On March 18th, we're having what we call Data Day. We invite teams from all the schools in the BOCES region to go to BOCES for a half-day walk through both the district data as well as the regional data, and come up with plans in their districts or in their buildings of how to use this information. I thought it was really interesting that that's one of the priorities of this board, is to use data to inform your decisions. So we've got a lot of data. Be doing presentations. One of the things I do each semester, I'm invited into one of the Ithaca High health classes. I think it's really important to share this information back with the students. They share their information with us, and I think it's only fair to share it back with them. So I'm doing that April, I forget what the date is, but that's something I routinely do. We invite any of you who want to be involved in our work to join us. Some of the things we've been involved with in the past are reflected on this. We did do a campaign for 6 years at DeWitt Middle School when Ron Acera was the principal at that school, and after he left. Our efforts have switched now to Trumansburg Middle School, but we have been doing lots of other things. We send the letter that go to the parents of the juniors and the senior at the prom and graduation time, encouraging them to celebrate safely. We're involved in all the medication collection events and the medication drop boxes that are in place in the county, figuring if we can take medicine out of the supply chain, it will keep the community safe through various presentations. And sticker shock campaign, that's that it's not your law, it's not your call, it's the law. Young people who are involved in our Above the Influence campaign have been in the Ithaca Festival a number of times as well. I'm happy to take any questions, but I know we've got other important things on your agenda.
Elder, go ahead.
A question about the anxiety, depression, the mental health statistics that you showed. Any idea how we stack up regionally and nationally in this area?
I'm sorry, I don't. I haven't. This was the first presentation I've made with the new data. The new data just arrived at Christmas time, and I haven't even had a chance to put a summary of how that's together. There aren't any, that Monitoring the Future survey that I referenced doesn't include those same mental health questions, but I could certainly do a BOCES regional look for you if you wanted, and get that information to you.
I know I have a reference point, so my instincts almost don't matter because I don't know if I'm right or not, but some of the numbers obviously look we'd like, I feel they should be better, but I don't know what I'm.
The other thing I could do for you if you wanted is, because those same questions have been used in 2008, 10, and 12 to see if things have changed, or if how they are from building to building, and whatever you want. I mean, all that information is available. These survey reports have been delivered to the building principals in the district, and I think Dr. Brown has received a set. I hope you've received a set.
Electronically?
I think it was a big old fact binder.
Oh, no, I wouldn't have read that. May I ask a question? So, I saw
Please
your
do.
community conversation, your conversations and presentations. What does that entail? I have many questions about the surveys, the protocol behind them, the data, and then what happens after, and your suggestions for improving. Is that all included in your presentation, or is it more just sharing the numbers?
Depends on who my audience is.
It would be me and some folks who would want to change them. So what would that look like?
Say this
It would be me and other folks who would want to change the numbers
change the numbers.
and address some of the issues that we all know exist. So what is your team looking to do to help us with that?
We want to work with schools on what your strengths are, what you see as your strengths, and try to build on those. I think that we realize that not everyone has the advantage of having this kind of information, so sometimes you just have to look at what it is and...
But let me be a little bit more specific then. We understand the numbers, and we've known these numbers for a long time. I know I have in my team, but we're looking for some expertise in how to shift the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And does your group help with that, or are you just more sharing the data through your survey?
Well, we work closely with TST BOCES, and they are involved in classrooms in whatever ways districts request to, I know, for example, on the substance abuse side of things, they have a person at Ithaca High School to do substance abuse assessments and so forth. We've purchased various curricula, evidence-based curricula, second step curricula, and provided that to the district for use in K through 8. So it sort of depends on what districts thinks their own solutions are and to try to support those. However, as I said, we are in year 9 of this 10-year grant, so we're not probably going to be looking to do anything wild and new and crazy since we've only got a year and a half to go with this funding.
Who's the we again?
The Community Coalition for Healthy Youth.
Michael, go ahead.
Do you have a breakdown of the numbers by school, IHS compared to ACS, for example?
We do. What we promised when we do this survey, though, is that that's up to each district to do. We promised we'd never put Dryden next to Groton, next to Lansing, next to Ithaca, because that's not necessarily productive, and the district has all of that information, so I have it, but the district has it, and we would ask that you go to someone in the district or to the building principals to get that information, so yes.
And you mentioned a abuse point person at IHS.
Meredith DePaul. Meredith DePaul. Ms. Little knows her.
Okay, well, okay.
Your building leadership is aware of,
Well, that's good.
so right, so you can touch base with that. Chris, go ahead. And,
If I remember, you said in the bullying part, you didn't use the term bullying per se. Why wouldn't we use that term since it's so widely known? Do we use examples or references?
I think part of the issue is that the survey has to be understandable by both sixth graders through 12th graders, and we want to make sure whenever we have a choice of wording the question, the bulk of the survey is a national instrument that we buy and we don't have any control over. We opt to add 10 local questions, things that we work with schools to identify. We've asked things about computer access and cell phones. We ask the bullying questions. We ask if you've used alcohol, where you got it. So things that aren't included in the base survey. The way the bullying questions were designed go back a number of years, and we felt it was important to keep the same wording as much as possible. And to use the term verbal bullying, would a sixth grader know what that meant? So we gave more description of have you experienced these sorts of behaviors? And I'm sorry I didn't bring in a copy of the instrument with me, just so that it would be clear to a young person reading the survey what we were talking about.
Does that seem effective? Not knowing the questions and the outcome. Are the sixth graders grasping what you're asking them?
I would hope so. One of the problems we run into is the amount of time I think it takes to complete the survey. Those questions on bullying are toward the very end. I haven't yet had a chance to look at this year's to see what the percentage of sixth graders who started the survey actually got to the end of it. But again, that's a building decision about how much time to allow for the survey. If some schools allow 42 minutes and some allow 47 minutes or whatever it is, that extra 5 minutes can make a difference. So that's something else I can research for you if that's something that you want.
Go ahead, Seth.
So there's a March 18th meeting, and I guess I'm not sure this is a question for you exactly, but are we sending folks there, and if so, who? And do we traditionally send, does Ithaca traditionally send a team up there to go through this data meeting, and who is it?
I know at this point in time, LACS, Ithaca High, and DeWitt have signed up to send teams. Now, the fact that I don't know if Boynton is signed up doesn't mean that they may not have. You sign up through My Learning Plan, through the BOCES My Learning Plan, and as of a week and a half ago, as of a week ago Friday, Boynton had not signed up. They may have signed up since then, but since I don't work for BOCES, I can't go in.
Who signs up? Is it the principal, teachers, anybody who wants, like, what's the?
The notification went to superintendents and principals, and in some cases, in Dryden, for example, the superintendent is coming, and I think she's a team of one. In other districts, they send administrative staff. They don't send principals. They send counselors, social workers. It really is up to the district to decide who's going to be the right people to use the information and think about, what changes might.
And they develop a plan at this meeting, and they kind of
I would imagine they bring it back to their district, to their principal, to the superintendent, to the school board.
Do you know anything, Dr. Brown, in terms of what? Okay. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Judy Max.
I'd like to go back to Eldred's. I'm very interested in the slide you have up there. It doesn't have comparative data, so I would be interested in how far back you could go.
Well, the same questions have been used in 2008, 10, and 12 surveys, so I can go back that far and also do give you a county comparison or a region comparison.
I'm just interested in Ithaca comparison.
Okay, sure. And who should I get that to? Danielle. Okay.
I mean, if
The more clear.
I'm going to try and state this succinctly.
Is it a question, Eldred, or?
No, it's a comment.
Just to be clear, so you don't have to answer, but go ahead.
Maybe you can answer. So you're sitting in front of a group who's pretty action-oriented, and you see numbers like this, as Dr. Brown said. It's simply not enough for you to relate this information to this group. We don't really necessarily even care what BOCES is doing. We want to know how we can act on this, so we can improve the lives and the situation, the outcomes of the kids that we are responsible for. And I'm not getting that in the translation from your presentation. And maybe that's not even your intent. So if you're sensing that from us, I just want you to know why. Typically, when we see stuff like this, the person sitting there is in a position to answer to us when we say, how now we don't fix this? But you don't report to us. So I'm grateful to get the information, but I'm not sure what to do with this now. And that's a little frustrating.
Well, that's part of the conversations going forward, and we looking at Dr. Brown and the leadership teams, you're asking how do we act, well, that's really up to us. And how do we act on this information? Well, like all information that is presented, but act in what way? So that would be interesting, Dr. Brown, to have that discussion.
Collaborations we must put in place to address those numbers are going to be even more interesting. The way it's been shared is the ICSD and the county and other school districts. And this issue, from what we learned last spring, as part of the conversation we had in CULT, it's much bigger than the school district. So I'm hoping when we visit BOCES, that part of the conversation is on the table as well. in addition to some action steps to change?
For me, this is the first time I've had the report presented, and I'm very glad to see you here and presenting it, because I would not know this. But I think, like my fellow members, we're in the action part. What are we going to do about this? So, yeah.
So I think, Chris, we appreciate you, conducting the survey again and bringing the information to us, and then we're going to take it from here after we hear from the March 18th meeting, and folks have a chance to really dig into the data. And very happy that so many of our students took part in it.
Yeah.
So that was good. Yeah, exactly. And that's useful. The more input, the better we can move forward. So thanks, Chris.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
So we're going to move on, and we've heard from student reps a little bit, but go ahead, Michaela.
I just hosted our annual winter formal, and this year we had the Simremden Band come play. That was at the Cornell Biotech building. And also Brain Team hosted Trivia Night, which was held in the IHS cafeteria.
So we just wanted to reiterate the comments by the PTA president about the half day and how amazingly smoothly that went for the very first time. So I think Mr. Powers and his team did a great job in making sure we all had a half day that worked. So I guess I should be thanking Dr. Brown as well. You know, anytime, of course, we're ready. Yesterday, Wes Moore came, who's a world-renowned, very prominent author, to speak to students about the challenges that he faced growing up and how he dealt with them, as well as about his work, which was very interesting. A lot of students went. It was in Hope. We've got 60 more school days, so some of us are excited about that. And I guess we're looking to, finish the year off strong. Everyone has tests, and teachers are even now starting to kick into review mode for APs and things like that. Finally, Common Core standards are something that you guys hear a lot about. But how that translates to students is still sort of unclear to us and to some other students. So, again, translating that, how does that affect students is something that I think we would like to hear more about from, whomever can provide that information.
Great. Thank you both. Very good. On to Ned.
Okay. So, early dismissal. The half day also went well at ACS. We had to get on the buses by 11:55, I think, in order to make it to Ithaca High School, where students would catch the buses taking them home. But that went really smoothly, and I was very impressed with how that was all organized. So yeah, if that has to happen again, it wouldn't be a big deal.
That's an everyday thing now. Are we happy it snowed? Is that
I've never been thankful for snow day before. Take it.
More? Anything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
A couple, I'm not sure exactly when, but a little while ago, the 8th graders at our school were given the National Assessment of Educational Progress, and I hear that went well. I didn't participate in it because I'm not in 8th grade, but that happened. And then this Thursday, on Valentine's Day, a group of students and some staff have coordinated a dance to be held at ACS for middle schoolers. So that's a nice thing because we rarely do dances at LACS just because it's a hard thing to organize. 2 teachers actually were recognized recently. John Raymond was given the Deborah S. Newman Tradition Community Recognition Award, and that was a really nice thing because he heads up our community service program at LACS, which I think is a really good program and it's really valuable. And then Chris Spaley, who's another teacher, was featured in the Ithaca Journal and is along with his Project Workshop program, and that was good.
And some of you may have heard about our group at ACS that is, I think, mostly middle schoolers, called the Frack Action Group. And they just won a contest by the Artists Against Fracking for a short music video they made. If you look up "You've Been Fracked," it's online, and they will get to have lunch with Yoko Ono. And
And son.
Yeah, and some.
And Sean.
Yeah, and so we're all very happy about that. And that's in a similar light, some of you may have heard about this Sunday. There's going to be a climate change rally in Washington, D.C. And a group of very dedicated students and parents have put together a trip outside of school, of course. And we have an official kind of LACS student bus, and that has been very gracious, or able to happen from very gracious donations from many teachers. So Ned and I both have our tickets, and we're going to be heading down there.
Good.
And hope to see what happens.
Are we for it, against it? I'm always confused by it. Are you done? Is that good?
Yep.
Oh, good. I didn't want to step in your report. Very good. Great. And I guess everybody gets to go to lunch, right? It's not just a few. The whole group that was involved in the fracking video gets to go to, I guess, New York somewhere. Yeah. Anyway, I read it somewhere, but yeah.
So this week, student held a collaboration meeting between the student government's student council, site-based council, and we were just wondering if you guys would be interested in hearing the notes that we have from there.
Are they long notes?
No, they're just quick bullets.
Well, I guess sure. Quick bullets would be great.
All right, so student to student, this week we finished our training for peer listeners, and so they're going to be in the hub, available to meet in groups, talk to students about things that are going on. Site-based council, the things that we've been talking about are we've been talking a lot about cheating, and also talking about more tutoring and academic assistance for honors and AP students. The sophomore class right now is organizing a badminton tournament for March 16th, which is going to be $5 a team, and it would be similar to the handball tournament, except in badminton. They're also accepting suggestions for class slogans, and they'll be on T-shirts, and they say that these slogans aren't permanent, and so it can change from year to year. The junior class is having movie night on February 22nd. They're going to show The Breakfast Club, and right now they're planning junior prom, which is on April 27th. And then the senior class just is working on surveys now for senior trips and prom. And from the surveys that they collected so far, it's looking like most seniors are in favor of going to Pocono Valley as a senior trip, and and also what the junior class is working on is having a video to show all in all the junior social studies classes, going over rules and kind of dress code for junior prom.
Very good. Thanks.
What's in the Pocono Valley?
So the Pocono Valley, as far as I understand it, is just there's a wide variety of things to do. Either on the lake. I'm not too sure, but you can talk to the class president.
In the Poconos, sure. Board responses other than Judy Max asking where the Poconos are.
I have a question,
Okay, go ahead.
observation, Rob. I was given a copy of last week's Tatler, and on the back page, there's a list that says the coolness spectrum. And there's this list. It starts with pirates, cool. And at the very, very bottom, uncool, it says Board of Education, right above Mike Hall's new glasses, and which I like, and so I was actually wondering, as a point of information,
It's meant to be flipped.
what we do that's so uncool, and also conversely, did we ever do something that was cool? Like, what is this about?
No, I think, Pat, you're just going into areas that we probably really don't need to go into.
We got our high school reps here?
Well, I don't think we need to put them on the spot here. I don't know. But Michael, if you wish to respond to Pat's inquiry.
Well, I made it on the bottom too, so I'm not sure my response is going to do much good.
Well, for me, I liked 8th grade, and then after that, it was all downhill. Anything else? Are we good? Can we move on? We are going to move on. A lively public comment session, that's for sure. On to consent agenda.
I'll move the consent as presented with the personnel supplemental.
Second by Chris, I believe. Comments, questions? For those of you who are looking at it, there is an extensive legal resolution, multiple whereases and a final word 4 that we are assuming ownership of the Hancock Street property. This goes back to the Marcus Flats remediation, where our maintenance facility was at the Marcus Flats property and then was moved per agreement with NYSEG, and it's been 5 years now, I believe. So it has been 5 years, and the remediation is ongoing at Marcus Flats. But at this point, I believe we are ready to take ownership of the Hancock Street property. So that's what all that legalese is. But I'm not a lawyer or an attorney, and I do not pretend to be one. So if there's any questions about that, it was reviewed in finance, I believe, Brad, correct? And that certainly is most of the verbiage. Anything else? Any other questions? Without any further ado, all in favor of the consent? That's everyone minus Sean, who is absent tonight. And I believe, right, we're, Dr. Brown, we are finally to you, I believe.
Well, thanks for this time. 2 quick items. First, at our last board meeting, we foreshadowed, Dr. Landau and Mr. Trumbull foreshadowed the January 20th PLC day. I wish to share with the board and the community that day occurred, and we have some survey responses back from the day. As you know, we had over 70 plus workshops, partnering with the EIOC, Cornell University, Ithaca College, and many of our talented educators in-house. We put on a pretty impressive event. It was a snowy day. We didn't call it a snow day. It was a snowy day, and folks were here at 8:30, standing room only, for the keynote presenters, and then we broke into breakout groups later in the day. The feedback, and typically when we do surveys here, the response rate isn't very good. We're around the 3 and 4% response rate range previously. This time we had close to 200 staff members respond already to a survey. And I won't get into details. We're going to present you the details later, but the responses have been overwhelmingly positive, 9-to-1 positive and negative, which is outstanding qualitative data. Some of the very specific responses, it was the best PLC day or staff development day we've ever had. Some folks said, I've been in the district 30 plus years and it was the best day we've had here. So the response, we felt good as staff with the input and the participation from the community and our staff members. And then seeing this in writing was impressive also. We have some folks here who were sort of in a stealth mode just watching it. I mean, to do a day-long staff development on cultural competency and inclusion through the lens of our framework, and then also connected to our vision and mission. I mean, we connected a lot of pieces that day. And to do that in the way that we did, folks were interested in seeing how it would happen. There are folks, including the National Association for Black School Educators and several companies who are looking to do day-long experiences on cultural competency, and they were here to see how it worked, and they've been very impressed. They've actually reached out to us to learn more very specifically about some of our educators who presented that day and how they can get them to present at other conferences. So we're feeling good about that day, for the long story short. And we'll present to you the more formalized data at some point in the near future. And I wish Sean, Dr. Professor Bradley was here, because he did an outstanding job. He was one of the keynote presenters. And some of the feedback is very specifically speaking to him, his connection to the Board of Education, his connection of your work to the district's work, and then his overall approach to cultural competency and good teaching, etc. So all that to say, thank you for your support in that day. I know some of you were there, and we'll get you more information later. Secondly, because my technology failed me, and I'm getting better with the technology pieces, at a meeting back in, well, a few months ago, we attempted to introduce Dr. Lloyd Bruce Jowell to you and the community, and it didn't work so well. We fixed the technology pieces, but now, even better, we have her here in person. She's been on board for a few weeks. I think her first day, it snowed. She is from the ACC. So this has been a transition for her also, but we're so happy to have her on staff. She's already been offering her expertise and talents to us as an organization. As Chief Excellence Officer, she's in charge of staff development, primarily responsible for staff development and special education, but connections to all other areas of the organization as well. And she's here. So welcome, officially, and we can see you and hear from you.
And that worked. I mean, there wasn't anything that interrupted that
See
at
that
all.
technology there? It worked.
There's no downtime, no dead air time, so that was good. Dr. Brown is
That's all for me.
very good. And we'll move on to school district business. And if I'm not mistaken, Frau Odell is here. And if that means that there must be a trip to Germany on tap. And it is in our Dropbox, but it's always good if someone speaks to a trip to Germany that students will be taking.
Oh, fabulous. So we're getting ready to go. Oh, do I have to?
Well, that was a long invitation.
I'm the planner organizer. I'm not a public speaker here. So it's time for our exchange trip to Germany. Once again, we have been doing this, I believe, since the late 80s. Lots of experience with it. This spring, this spring, it didn't even spring yet. In January, I actually went to New York City because I'm officially a new coordinator for this trip. We are sponsored by the German-American Partnership Program, which in return is supported by the German Foreign Ministry and the State Department. They are very generous with funds. We have insurance to them, and that's our organization. We will be taking 22 students, 3 chaperones. We'll be staying from July 6th to July 28th. And I really would like to describe this trip because it's an exchange trip. It's not just a sightseeing trip, which is fine. Nothing wrong with sightseeing. But we are really, the students have to be in school at minimum of 10 days during the trip. They have to attend classes. They have to do presentations. And the new thing is that both schools, our partner school and ours, we have to work on a joint project. So that's something new. We haven't figured out the details of that yet. At the end of the trip this time, we will go to Munich for 3 days. And we will be doing some sightseeing there. So that's my overall spiel there.
Excellent. Any
I'll
questions?
move approval of the trip.
Second by Seth. Any
questions?
Oh, please do.
What, if anything, did you put in place for kids and families who might need help in terms of paying for the cost of the trip?
So we have a couple of things. I always have that in mind. We always have kids who need help. We have a little scholarship fund that I have in our account. We often have very generous parents. When I overcharge a little bit, instead of getting a refund, they just donate the rest of the money for future expenses. Then we're, like I said, we're sponsored by the German-American Partnership Program, who supplies funds. And students who need more money can do individual scholarships. They can apply for individual scholarships also. And then we're talking about fundraisers. We haven't decided on which one to do yet, though. I always have that in the back of my mind. This year I have 3 kids who will have financial assistance.
Thanks. How many children total?
22. It's the largest group we have ever taken on this now. Usually we have 12.
No.
Well, this used to be a trip with Portland and Homer High School and Ithaca High School,
Right.
and Homer and Portland are not in the program anymore, so it's all Ithaca now.
So you have more spots?
More spots, but also I need more host families when they come.
Okay.
We've done it.
Yeah.
Yep. Any other questions? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? That's everyone. Thank you.
All right.
Have a great trip. And Dr. Brown, after a pleasant trip to Germany, now we're back to the school calendar. And for some reason, we're revisiting the district calendar again.
In the current year, and Mr. Moon is around, this particular shift has much to do with the scoring of ELA. You want to give a brief soundbite for the board, Mr. Moon?
Sure.
Tim, why?
Sure, I can come up.
Please do.
Roughly this time of year, the board approves a district calendar, and occasionally the state changes assessment days and so on, regents dates, and we take the best stab at it as we can relative to when we're going to score our ELA 3 through 8 exam. We had it being scored on Friday, and Friday is the last day of our math examination window. So instead of scoring our ELA on Friday, having kids come back after a 3-day weekend to take the third day of their math assessment, we'd like them to take the third day of their math assessment on the Friday, and we'll score on the Monday instead. It only affects grades 3 through 8 because the rest of our students are in session. Still provides a 3-day weekend over the same weekend, but I think for testing continuity makes more sense if we score on the Monday versus the Friday.
Seems to make sense, Dr. Brown. I'm not sure.
Calendar issue that makes sense.
And I assume
we need a resolution for this to make this change or not?
No, we have.
This is just informative.
Well, the board needs to vote to approve the change.
That's okay.
I think that's,
Okay.
we need a motion to make the change.
Right, I'll move we change the day from the 26th to the 29th of April, which I assume are the correct days. The Dropbox has 2 copies of last year's calendar in it, which I did, which were not useful in figuring out what was being asked for.
I was trying to figure out the differences, but with my 8th grade education, I really couldn't get that. So,
2012, 2013.
are we good? And Judy Maxwell.
That's what the label
Yeah,
says.
second. I have it right.
Pat, that's what the label
No.
says, it's 20.
I know, but when you open it, it was 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
But Judy has a paper copy, which is reliable,
Old fashioned.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and has the correct dates.
very good.
Apparently on paper, we've got it. And Tim, that's that technology thing again that apparently Dr. Brown is struggling with. But
This is my Dropbox.
I know.
On my computer. This is not the Dropbox.
Just don't put that in the minutes.
yeah, it's that's that board discussion ensued part that I think we're good. Yes, we're going to vote. All in favor, Judy Max?
Yes.
Judy Max with paper agrees, and Chris does too, right? Yes. All right. That's everyone.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate it. Makes all the sense in the world. We will move on to really the last item for this evening, which is instructional coaching. I do want to point out as we move folks up that we will go to exec session after we are done with our this current public session. We're going to adjourn back into exec session to discuss. We'll make the motion at that time. But so we're going to do instructional coaching, get an update on that model, and waiting patiently for folks to come up and speak.
Come on up, Tim.
Yeah, I was killing time there. So here we go.
and the presentation is ready to go.
Kind of the guys do the dead space of the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we're half dim anyway, so, I believe we paid the...
And while they're coming in, please know we have new artwork up.
I noticed that.
We scheduled an art show. You'll be getting the invite for that also. But this work is from Caroline? From Caroline Elementary. And just self-taught.
I like that.
You'll learn more about it.
You don't have that on
It's a long story.
Yeah, I like the wadded up piece of paper. That's great. No, that's fine. We're fine. No, paper's a good thing.
We'll see if we can do it. No, we're ready.
All right, Dr. Brown has taken a photo of the event apparently, and I think we're ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and get going, folks. They're huddling in the back. I'm not sure what they're discussing, but we're talking about instructional coaching, so feel free.
So good evening and thanks for having all of us here. These are a representative group of folks that have been meeting for quite some time to talk about instructional coaching and really changing the paradigm in many respects around teacher development, teacher training, and work around children, and increasing the achievement around children and helping every child in the classroom to be successful. Too often times when we talk about staff development, there's a sign in the staff development room actually at DeWitt Middle School. It says staff development doesn't happen to me. In a sense that too often times when we have staff development opportunities, we pull our teachers out of the classroom. They might go up to DeWitt or other opportunities. Folks come and do a workshop with them or present it to. Can oftentimes be very hands-on as we work with teachers all the time. They want things that they want to take back to the classroom. We're here to present a model that really changes that, to put the coaches in the classroom, to see what's happening with children in the classroom, to really analyze and look at student data. How are our children performing? How are they feeling in the classroom? The observation and partnering with and coaching our instructors in the classrooms, and then doing follow-up from there. We're also talking about in our instructional coaching model, raising a level of our PLCs from what Dr. Brown affectionately calls 1.0 to 2.0, and that's really what we're here to talk about this evening, making that shift.
Yeah, we will.
Oh, I apologize.
So to get things started, this fall we created an instructional coaching design team. And on this design team we had 6 teachers and 5 administrators. And so the people here to present tonight, we have Lydia Ali Coyle, Colleen Ledley, who's the principal of South Hill. Lydia Ali Coyle is a teacher on special assignment. Nancy Lovell, a reading teacher at Caroline. Jeff Tomasic, principal of Northeast. We also had Gina Amici, a teacher at Boynton. Maggie New, a teacher at Ithaca High School. We had Lee Ginenthal, teacher on special assignment. Adam Piasecki joined us on several of the meetings. And we also had, and she's out in the crowd, Lori Miller, who is our partner from Cornell, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in our presentation about the help we've been getting from Cornell on this project. And so she and her students have joined us on this design team as well. So some things that we did, just in terms of background for the design team, we've probably met 6 or 7 times after school hours to work on this. We had a common reading. We all read a text called Student-Centered Coaching, which we'll get into. And we also had Liddy and Colleen attended a 3-day training in Syracuse back in November about instructional coaching. So they're able to work with other people in New York and some people from out of the state just on that very idea of student-centered coaching. And so we're going to jump right into it. What we're presenting to you tonight is the conceptual background for this model. And so we're going to kind of walk through that, talk a little bit at the very end about what it will potentially look like, and hopefully after the committee or the design team keeps working, we'll be able to come back with more specifics, especially as budget becomes more specific as well.
So here's a definition that we worked on really quite a long time, and we may very well continue to work on it. But as you're taking a look at this, I'd like you to focus on some key words. The first one is relational trust. Relational trust, something that's built over time, something that's built by the coach and teachers being in the trenches of the classroom together, time poring over student work together. Trust built by working together toward the common goal of increased student achievement. Jump down to the collaborative inquiry phrase. This speaks to working together as colleagues, as thinkers together, asking questions of data. One member teaches, the other observes student behaviors. They begin to ask, here's what, now what? And then observations of classroom practice, thinking, again together. How is this impacting student learning?
All right, more about what instructional coaching is. It's embedded in classrooms. It's embedded in the art and science of teaching and learning. It's centered on students. In a lot of ways, it's more centered on what students are doing and what students can do, what they need to do, than it is even on what teachers are doing. It's also very much focused on data, and data isn't just test scores, it's also actual samples of student work, student writing, student responses to literature. It's also relational in the sense that the coach builds a relationship with the teacher that is based on trust and mutual respect. A few things that instructional coaching is not. It's not a training model where we're looking at sending teachers away somewhere to get trained on how to do A, B, C, and D. It's also not evaluative. It's not part of the current teacher APPR process, nor are there any plans to have it be so. It's peer-to-peer. The coaches are teachers, master teachers, working with teachers, looking at student work, and again, figuring out what do the students need to do and how do they need to shift their practice to get there.
So when you think about coaching in an educational setting, you may very well have in your mind this idea that an adult goes into a classroom, watches another adult, and gives that adult feedback. Okay, so the person who goes in is the coach, watches the teacher, then sits down with the teacher, they have a conversation, they talk about what should be changed, the coach gives some advice, and then leaves, and the teacher's on their way. So I want to shift your thinking around that to a model that looks a little different. So imagine a coach going in and sitting with the teacher and saying to the teacher, what are your learning goals for the children in your class? And where do you want them to be by the end of the year? Let's set some goals together. And those goals are going to be aligned to what the PLC in that grade level, for example, would be working on. And those should be aligned to building goals. So it's part of that whole big picture. And then with those goals in mind, the coach goes into the classroom and, as was mentioned, watches the children. Looks at the teaching, of course, but wants to see how they're responding. And most importantly, look at what they're actually doing and what they produce. Sits with the teacher and goes through the work with the teacher and asks some really important questions. And through that questioning process, together the thinking happens. And from that thinking, there are discussions on how do we move those children that didn't move, didn't do what we want them to do? What about those children who are far beyond it? All of those great conversations happen. And then the coach goes back in and watches 2 or 3 more times, because it's an organic process that happens between both the coach and the teacher. And it's really about another set of eyes, and about thinking aside somebody, not for somebody.
So as you can see from this, we're really helping teachers be thinkers within their day as they go through the day. This is less threatening, it's non-judgmental. And I think most of you know that I have been doing staff development for many years, and we learned this term in our training. It was called BFO, the blinding flash of the obvious. And I really had one of those there because I've been doing this for years, coming in to classrooms and wondering why I wasn't making sustainable change. But I was telling teachers to change in hopes that they would change student behavior. And so I realized that this flipped the paradigm. So instead of saying you need to change and we hope that that will make achievement change, we flip it and we say, what do the children need? And of course we talk to teachers about what they need to do, but it's always in relation to what are the students doing and how can we move the students forward. So it was a BFO for me. So what coaching is asking the right questions, getting the teachers to think about it, not giving the answers, having the teacher reflect, and asking together, what are the next instructional steps that we need to make to move these students forward? There is purposeful learning in that, so that you're not just asking questions, they're content-laden questions. So have you ever thought of small group instruction in this situation to move these students forward? Then we go on to a conversation about what is small group instruction, how do we make that fit in our day? It is very content-laden questioning and all built around what you've heard about developing relationships and trust. We want to go back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So why this model? Well, I think already you've heard every single one of us talk about student achievement. That is for sure the focus on this and the focus on students. But I also think from being both a teacher and an administrator, I know that this is really what teachers want. This is what they ask for. We know from the work that our TOSAs have done that teachers are calling them and asking for that support. Hey, can you come in my classroom? Can you watch what I'm doing? Could you help me look at my data? So there is a desire there, and certainly it takes away from the pressure of evaluation. It's not sitting with the principal during an evaluation where you have those conversations and the pressure of getting that score is there. It's having a colleague that whose job it is to really understand the teacher and the children, sit next to you and do the work. So that combined with the fact that good teaching and effective teaching and all students achieving their potential is really, really complex work. I'm not telling you anything you don't know already, but in order to do that well, it takes really concentrated thought. And it takes people collaborating together and a real focus on every teacher and every classroom and every student.
And you see the quote, what we have up here is this continuous cycle of inquiry, and that's what it is. It's a facilitated inquiry cycle the teachers are going through. And we're using this model because learning is most valuable when it's driven by the learner's needs. And so we're talking to the learner, the teacher at this point, and what do you need to move students forward? And so their desire to learn of how they can affect change is what drives this model.
So I mentioned at the beginning, or before I get into this, I need to mention Diane Carruthers, principal of Boynton, is also on our design team. I mentioned at the beginning that we've been partnering with Cornell. We worked with a student of Lori Miller's in the Masters of Public Administration program last semester, and she helped us develop a resource list, a wiki to house all this information. She also kind of was the outside person in our meetings, helping us stay focused and on task, and was invaluable really to our work. And then this semester we're lucky to have the entire class working with us. So last night I met with the class, and they're divided into two teams, and one team is working on how do we communicate this model to teachers, how do we communicate this model to community. That same team is also working on how we evaluate the effectiveness of this model, and so they're going to look into different ways that this can be evaluated. The other team is like the money team. So the other team is looking at ways that, while we'll be looking at ways internally that we can fund this through our budget, they'll be looking at either federal, state, or foundation/nonprofit sources that we could potentially get grant funding for this model too. So it was an impressive group, and I feel really lucky to have that collaboration. Eldred was instrumental way back in the fall in kind of making that happen as well, and attended many of our early meetings to help solidify our connection with Cornell. And so we feel that will really benefit this group and hopefully everyone in the district. So we have a lot of steps that we need to take as we move forward. We need to really get into the nuts and bolts of what this may look like. And the design team has started to chew on that a little bit. We need to talk about, how we go through the hiring process, writing an actual job description for this model. I think this part that we've done is the hard work. We've really wrestled with some ideas, and I think these other parts will become a little easier if we're able to move forward. And we also want to look into training. So Lydia and Colleen attended a really powerful training that they mentioned. We're looking to either work with that organization or some other outside staff, because we feel like we don't have a lot of internal expertise about coaching. And so we're looking to have some outside training for all of our coaches and our administrators, so we're on the same page as we begin next school year. So just to give a little bit of a taste of what it might look like next year, we're thinking at the elementary level that we would have pairs of coaches working with pairs of schools. So we think it's very important for coaches to not feel isolated. It's a really tough job, and what we've read in the research is that coaches can often feel rather alone in their job because it poses new challenges that a lot of teachers aren't used to. And so we want pairs of coaches at the elementary level to work with pairs of schools. We're not looking to have like a reading specialist and a math specialist, but we're looking to go after at the elementary level, since every elementary teacher is a generalist, or every classroom teacher, we're looking at strong classroom teachers with really good interpersonal skills that we feel can sort of go back and forth between the world of students and then navigate the world of adult learning as well. We're debating piloting this. We just do this in 2 schools. We do it in 4 schools at the elementary level. Part of that is what we want to pilot. Part of that is also budget dependent, or what our friends at Cornell are able to come up with in terms of outside funding. So we're, as a design team, wrestling with that. And the secondary group in the design team also has been tossing around some ideas.
So the secondary group has talked about a pilot of possibly 3 instructional coaches that would rotate between the 3 buildings. Nobody would be assigned to any one building, what they might be assigned to a particular grade level. So if there's a 6th grade instructional coach, 7th grade, and 8th grade, one of the difficulties that we face with our alignment and what we're trying to do at all 3 schools is to bring them together. Michael asked earlier about Common Core and how it impacts students. All right, so we've, as 2 staffs with Boyd and DeWitt, we've brought those staffs together quite a few times. Well, quite a few times means once a month. So if you have a 7th grade math PLC, we offer 7th grade obviously at Boyd and DeWitt, and they should be moving pretty lockstep. Well, the bricks and mortar stand in the way in many terms of them being able to collaborate. So if we have instructional coaches moving at that level between those buildings, you've got somebody working through, and that's what I mean by increasing the PLC from 1.0 to 2.0. And really what we're focused on at that point is analyzing student work, really looking at what students are working on a day-to-day basis, and then those instructional coaches working with staff members in those classrooms to see where children are, sharing what's happening in different schools, and allowing that sharing to happen. So that's really in the very early stages of discussion there. But we would pilot it at the middle schools to begin.
So we have a lot of work, obviously, that we need to keep doing. Design team, partially represented tonight, has been outstanding, and we're ready for some questions at this point.
Go ahead.
Has this been part of the budget process with that group?
This group hasn't talked money and funding outside of Jason and Matt. We're in the very early stages of putting together the budget, which we'll be talking about at upcoming board meetings.
Well,
but
if I counted right, that's 11 positions.
And not to steal next week's thunder, but we have been able to allocate resources in ways internally to accommodate that need already.
Well,
11.
Not quite 11, but the recommendation that we have on the table right now. We want to do more. That's why we're still working on it. But yeah.
Are we going to still have Liddy and the COSIS?
That's one of the things that's under discussion right now. So we're it partially depends on how many coaches we can have at the elementary level, but an argument could be made that we're ready for this next step in professional development. So we're kind of going back and forth as a design team and at our level about how we may want to restructure the TOSTA model for next year to maybe help accommodate this new model. And that's something that we've been really open about in the world of TOSTAs as we've talked about this possible shift.
So we're committed to a college. How many people have been part of the college is where we are right now.
Go ahead, sir.
So two parts. One, can you give me a sense of, I don't know if this is the right way to phrase it, but the time for change or growth that's required? We're talking about 11 or whatever the number was. Is the time for change, a year of 40 hours of, like if I go from coaching a particular teacher, 15 hours gets the ball rolling or not, or do you have any sense of what hours or day, whatever it's called? And that's the first part. Then the second part is Colleen mentioned focusing on the learner's needs, and then you related it to the teacher as the learner. When I heard learners, I went to kids, but the teaching part is right, and I've been having some other conversations about with other administrators about this idea of student voice in this process. And I wondered, other than the assessment part where you mentioned, I think you all mentioned student work as part of this process, but I didn't hear the student voice in that when my teacher does this, it works or doesn't, that kind of I don't know, evaluation is the word, but the student voice part of it. Could you talk about those two things, kind of the nuts and bolts of how long change takes typically, and then the student voice part of it in terms of...
Colleen and Liddy, since they went to that training, I think could speak to the first part of the question, the coaching cycle part, and then I can go after the second one, and you guys can.
So there's a lot of different models of coaching cycles, but generally a teacher will work in some way with a coach for 6 to 8 weeks in a cycle, and so it may be that that the coach may really come in through a PLC and talk about a need across the grade level, and then may spend a lot of close time with 2 of the 3 teachers based on need of the students, and the 3rd teacher maybe not as close amount of work with them, but the teachers that are doing close work, the teachers coming in the class, the coaches coming in the classroom through mutual agreement, and then they're reflecting and setting goals, and then going in and seeing how that's going, and then reflecting and making new goals. And
so within that 6 weeks, is it 10 hours, spread out over wherever, like what are the numbers?
I think it really depends on what we're looking at, but 3 to 4 classroom cycles in terms of the 3 to 4 hours perhaps, and it's hard to put numbers on it, of the coach coming in, and 3 to 4 more hours of discussion, reflection, and planning.
So 6 hours, 10 hours
to 8
over
hours.
6 weeks.
So,
And
yeah.
did the math go to, I didn't, Brad might be able to do it, but does it go to 11 people doing anything that effectively, or do we need to avoid it?
We've avoided the math.
We've
for a little
avoided the
bit.
math part, but yeah, because part of it is how many coaches do we need in a building if you have 21 teachers and they go through, and so how many cycles can a teacher go through? Because you can do it both ways. You can say, we want every teacher to go through 2 cycles. But then that, then that would necessitate a certain number of coaches. Or we say, we have 1 coach, and so that would mean, only 40% of the teachers would go through a cycle.
Right, every professional can improve in what they do, so are we looking to reach everyone, or is it more targeted groups?
Well, one of the, I think at least the training that where we were at would say that, it's about the kids. So looking at, again, student data, and as Liddy was suggesting, where are the children, where are they progressing, where are they not progressing, helping teachers in that. Not that it's the teacher's fault, right? That we don't want to leave them alone, but that it's hard work to get there, and those are the places where perhaps the the coach would spend more time with that particular person. In terms of the number of hours and all of that we have models that we saw that we can look to calculate all that. We haven't as a team gotten there yet, but they're definitely out there in schedules and cycles and all of that.
Yeah, if you could do that, because that would be helpful in terms of when we're kind of putting in a budget context, like, okay, 11 people mean nothing because we can only capture 6% of, you know, I mean, we might want to know more. It would just be helpful to know that.
Yeah,
so.
that's definitely our next step.
And the student voice thing, I'll just speak quickly to that. I when the group first convened, I talked, and I won't share the whole long story with you all here, but in my first year of teaching, I had a coach, instructional coach in the building I was working in, really helped me basically survive and then grow as a teacher. And one of the things that she did, and I was teaching 4th grade at the time, one of the things that she did was we created a survey for the students in the class. And so the results of the survey didn't go to my principal, so it wasn't evaluated, but it was something that we looked at, and 4th graders were incredibly clear about my deficiencies, and it was way more motivating than probably anything else. And so the reason I tell that story is a coach could be working with a teacher and say, you know, let's look at what your kids think, but we're not going to have that be like a requirement necessarily right off the bat. And it would really be something that, like, you know, Jeff said, it's non-evaluative, so it'd be something that doesn't then go to the principal. So we want teachers to feel a sense of safety with this as well, but that kind of feedback and that kind of data can be very, very powerful. I think if it's done in a safe setting, I think we'll probably see more people doing it.
And I think too, Colleen was talking about a second set of eyes, and that's a second set of eyes looking at students. So while you may not be going around polling the students, you are seeing the students' level of engagement, their responses, who is responding, who isn't responding, who, you know, and so we're gauging how kids are actually making it through the day.
Good. It's been fascinating watching this come together. I keep telling you guys, if you want students, Lori's program, MBA students, I will say this because I am a law grad, they compete with law students. I think they have an edge on MBA students right now. In terms of the money, we talked about there's a tremendous amount of foundation money going into supporting these projects, and the foundations are being clear, at least from my reading, that whatever money they give to a particular district or a particular school system to work this out, one of the expectations is that they help seed this amongst neighboring districts, right? So we have the opportunity here, especially the new BOCES director, who our superintendent approved, big giant air quote, Tim, wherever you are, or Tom, if we could start this conversation, you know, the sooner the better. The sooner the better. Once we nail this model down, how do we spread this throughout our neighboring educational communities? And now I have a question. So you guys, and this has been a question I've had since day one. I'd love to hear your take on it. How do you think the model, which from what you shared with us tonight, seems to be about focusing on the students' academic performance, how is that going to mesh with the RTI work that is going to be going on? Parallels, not the right word. It's in the same context, in the same body of little people.
So I'll hold it. Here's a little thing. So this is from our work that we did in Syracuse, and I wrote right on it, this is RTI. So this was my note, and this is the coaching cycle. And this is how we work with teachers to see how kids respond to interventions. I think it's more than just the classroom teacher, but I think this is the way we get at that and the way we really identify when do we need to intervene in a different way. So they are enmeshed together, and I think coaches coming into this need to know that they are an integral part of any RTI work that goes on.
Other questions, comments? In a perfect world, well, I won't even call it a perfect world, the design team is creating instructional coaching model. How long would it take a model such as you are designing to be implemented? Are we talking 2 or 3 years? Is it?
So I'll speak from experiences. And this will be my second run at designing a process. And I remarked today with the administrator, Matt Landau was the principal the last time I went through this process. And I remember all the tough questions came from him. And I was thinking to myself, that's the guy who doesn't want this to happen. But he was actually being very thoughtful about how it should be rolled out. And I remember from the leadership level, we went all in. We reallocated funds, and we put multiple coaches in every building. We wanted to do it right now. Quite frankly, it didn't work so well. We had University of Virginia study it and tell us that it didn't work well. Many reasons why. Because we weren't thoughtful about the impact, who we wanted to have receive the kind of coaching, how we monitor the successes of it or not, and we didn't partner with anyone. We thought we were the smartest people in the room. We just did it. We're doing it very differently here. And the word pilot came up quite a few times. We need to do this at a smaller scale first in 1 year, in year one. Maybe do that for 2 years to get good at it. The most important thing about this process and this model will be the people. And quite frankly, knowing what it takes to be a good instructional coach, we have some work to do to get people at that level. And these two ladies went to a training, and you probably can speak to that as well. It takes a lot to be that kind of an educator. I'm not sure, and I'm not saying we don't, but I'm not sure we have that capacity right now internally to do a broad-scale rollout of this model. We do have that capacity internally to do it at a smaller scale, to get good at it, have some successes, put some things in place, and then grow it. So if I were to give you, I hate putting numbers on this, but I'm thinking a 3 to 5 year process to get a model that we can hold our hats on. And there are places out there who've done this over the last 8 years or so, and they will speak to the same things. I can say we were one of the first as a district in Virginia to do this, and we jumped the gun on some things. It's now a great model, but there were some lessons learned that we're bringing to this process that we don't want to replicate. So that was a long-winded answer. So I'm just
I
saying 3 to 5 years.
I appreciate that. I think just to give us some idea of what the work will entail going forward.
Yeah.
Other questions right now? Go ahead, Jeff.
It occurs to me, Dr. Brown, what you just said and hearing about the Syracuse classes or whatever they went to, why is it, and I could give my own answers, but why is it that you can't take a program that's been done somewhere else and just run it here? Because apparently you can't. Because you went to the Syracuse thing and you don't come back and say, oh, they told us how to do this and implement it. And you've done it.
At the core of this process in the program, yes, the people, the coaches we actually hire and employ to do that, but trust is at the core of this. Right now, the culture in our state, and even some in our district, is the evaluation piece around APPR. This model is very different from that. And to implement it without going through a process where people really understand what we're attempting to do here, people will see this as another evaluative process. And these folks as quasi-administrators. And I've seen that happen, and that will be the end of this process. We won't see student achievement gains. We won't see the model grow. We'll have people who apply for the job, get it, and get out of it after a year. It just won't work. So the culture needs to shift. We need to build some capacity and an understanding about this. We're rolling it out tonight for the first time in late February. To put this in place next year, we won't have enough time to even communicate. I'm sure the folks at Cornell are going to come back and say it's going to take a year to truly communicate how this will impact us as a community. So again, we're being thoughtful. We can rush into it, but I just think the culture shift needs to take place first. And as I'm learning, that happens in many, many different areas. It takes time to change culture.
Piggybacking on that, one interesting thing that they shared with me that I'm learning, watching these other models, is that the people you expect to be coaches, Jay, the people who turn out to be coaches won't be the people you expect at all. Be a second-year student, or a second-year teacher. It just happens to have some fantastic way of having people buy into the trust that he or she brings to the equation. I was thinking it's going to be the people we all think of as a 30-year master teacher. So even in introducing something that interrupts the current hierarchy, it's going to take some time for all of us to adjust.
Very good. Any other comments? I think
I would just thank the folks who are part of this design team. They're coming in after hours, working hard at this. They're reading, they're studying the work. They're having tough conversations. They're standing before people who question, who have tough questions about a model that we haven't even implemented yet. And so for the folks in their leadership to do this work, I commend you, because it's not easy. So thank you.
thank you for your work.
It's great.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you.
More. Any other business by board members?
Upcoming dates.
There's upcoming dates for committees, etc. Anything? Brad, go ahead.
Are we ready to move? I'm going to move we go to executive session for the purpose of discussing litigation.
And second by Seth. We will, when we do vote, we will go into exec session in conference room A. Our public session is not complete until we come out of exec session, which we will do, and then we will end our public meeting. But for right now, motion on the table, all in favor? That's everyone, and we're in exec session. Thanks, and we'll see you in a bit.
If kids need signatures, grab them before we go into exec session.